We're joined by David Bannerman, Conservative MEP for East Anglia, and Phil Kelly from the Northern Ireland Labour Party. Welcome. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
No dead cats anywhere permitted in this conversation. David, are you glad to see the back of him?
Well, I know Ivan. I've worked with him, and personally, I think he's a very bright man, very able. He knows the EU very well. I don't know if he's the right man for this job, but you need to have real passion for Brexit and real belief in the opportunities it presents. I think that's time for a new replacement. I mean, he said himself that he would be going in October, so he just brought that forward.
What do you think pushed that forward? Some people speculating it was the leaked comment that it could be 10 years, really, to make the negotiated exit work.
Yes, I mean, the idea, as Ian Duncan Smith has been saying this morning, that, obviously it is a very serious matter for ministers if civil servants are reported in the press. And that was a serious issue about the 10 years. By the way, it's not, I work on the Trade Committee. What is meant by that is that the ratification process takes quite a long time.
Yes.
But that's not a problem. It takes about 5 years, but you can sign it quite quickly. 2 to 3 years is actually the average for trade deals with the EU. And of course, we start from a much better position. We don't have any quotas or tariffs, and we're converging with the EU because we're a member of the EU. So I think it'll be a lot quicker for Britain.
Phil Kelly, from what we can tell, we've all probably at this point had a look at the news reports and the CV of Sir Ivan Rogers. He's obviously steeped in EU politics. He knows the place inside out. Some people said he knows the place better than any other British civil servant, or perhaps even better than any minister who has worked there. He's also worked with Nick Clegg and with some of the greats of the Tory party as well over the years. Is he a loss to Britain's negotiated exit?
Well, I'm not going to be the biggest fan of Sir Ivan, but what I think it does is shine a light into the chaotic nature of what the Tory government have delivered into the lives of every citizen of this country. And for your listeners, I would be deeply worried, and I think they should be deeply worried by what's unfolding in front of them, because we've heard a lot of talk about Brexit. We've had soft, hard Brexit. We've had, red, white and blue Brexit. But what's becoming increasingly clear that this Tory Brexit is a chaotic Brexit, and what it will lead to is a loss of living standards for people across this country. If you look at what Theresa May has done...
That's a prediction. We don't know that's
but it was couched in returning sovereignty to the British Parliament, bringing powers back to Britain. In the meantime, she's tried to shut out the House of Commons from debating Article 50. She has no plan for Brexit. She's also tried to stymie Holyrood's ability to scrutinise what's going to happen. And what's becoming increasingly clear is that the Tory government have no idea, and they also have no mandate to deliver what the Brexit should look like, because the whole referendum, which was very shallow in how it was debated, the information the public received, and very badly couched as a decision.
How can they have no mandate? Of course they've got a mandate.
Well, Theresa May has no mandate as the Tory leader. She was basically gifted it as one of her opponents after another.
The referendum's the mandate.
I don't think that. No, what the referendum did was the British public made clear that they wanted to leave the European Union. What was not discussed during the referendum, what the Tory party has no plan for, is what that Brexit looks like. And that Brexit should not be a Brexit of the 1%, and it needs to be carefully debated by the House of Commons. If you look at the people within the Tory government and the shadow cabinet, within the cabinet, they have no idea what they're talking about. David Davis had to be curtailed by Theresa May, as did Boris Johnson.
I better bring David back in before he expires over there. Go ahead, David.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it, from Phil? No, this isn't a nonsense. Look, there's a process of discussion, consultation going on. You have to speak to a lot of people, including obviously the Northern Ireland Assembly and those in Northern Ireland, about their views and what the best deal is. It won't be long now. The Prime Minister has said that she'll make a big speech on this. She'll set the direction. We will enact Article 50 by the end of March, probably earlier, I would imagine. As for a plan, I mean, I've been an MEP for 7 years. I believe that it's quite straightforward. We have a guaranteed option anyway, which is WTO rules. That includes some tariffs, which you don't particularly want, so we want to negotiate a better deal. Now, if Canada can do that, and that should be agreed in February and enacted in March, April, the Canadian deal with the EU, There's no freedom of movement, there's no fee, but they get 99% non-agricultural access to the single market. And we can do better than that as the EU's largest single trading partner.
We are talking to David Bannerman, the Conservative MEP for East Anglia, and Phil Kelly from the Northern Ireland Labour Party. 03030 80 55 55. Muddled thinking. Does that describe how the Tory government is approaching Brexit? Let's go first to David. Hello, David.
Hello, William.
Welcome,
I just
David.
want to say Nigel Farage should be the EU ambassador.
He should take the place of Sir Ivan Rogers, you think?
Yep.
And that would make him
Because
sort of the chief, almost like the chief negotiator, I suppose, David Bannerman, wouldn't it?
Well, I think he's quite busy in Washington, Nigel, what I've been reading. But
What is he now? Is he the head of NATO or something? What's his job at the minute?
well, he's still an MEP, but Nigel Farage. I don't know. The government have to decide as someone who is enthused about the opportunity of Brexit. I think,
Well, that would be Nigel Farage.
No, but I don't think it will be. But I think the Foreign Office has been too pro-EU. It's got very close to EU. It needs to wake up to what the people have decided. They want Britain represented, our best interests. And there needs to be a major change of tone and approach from the Foreign Office. And I hope this new ambassador will bring that.
You can understand, obviously, how the Foreign Office got that way, Phil Kelly, because if Britain's in the EU for more than 4 decades, you would expect the Foreign Office to have the mentality to make that relationship work over the years. But that's changed.
Absolutely. But what the Conservative government seem to fail to forget is that they're negotiating from a position of weakness, a falling pound, 1.7 trillion in debt, unable to meet your balance the books, the setting that you give yourselves, that this was the target that you would hit by 2020, and your austerity programme, George Osborne's now yesterday,
fifth richest economy in the world.
Not anymore.
Fifth richest economy in the world.
On the slide. So really what we need is not so much partisan politics, is to actually work together, because this is a profound moment for the British Isles. It's a decision that's going to affect generations, and to leave it in the hands of the chaotic Tories who are squabbling amongst themselves and have been for 3 decades over this issue is folly. It won't deliver the kind
David Bannerman, you think we've got a stronger
desire.
negotiating position than that at the outset?
I have to say, Labour didn't even want to give us a referendum. They don't trust the people, and they're in terrible trouble. So I wouldn't take lectures from Labour. No, look, I mean, I think we're in a very good position. It will become clearer sooner, but we do have to look at all the options. It's a very complex and technical business. But the EU does trade deals with countries all around the world. It's just done one with Vietnam. It's done one with South Korea. It's working on Japan, India, and many others. And, you know, we can do this. We just need to be positive and stop talking Britain down. You know, we are larger than India. As an economy, India is catching us up, and so it should, with 1.5 billion people. We're larger than Russia. We have the largest financial centre in the world. We're in a strong position to do a great deal. It would just help that our own people don't rubbish what we have to offer.
And what are you pushing for? You were pushing for a kind of Norway Light model, weren't you?
Yes, I mean, I did a book, Time to Jump, which Ivan Rogers has read, actually. It's basically EA Light, as I call it. It's you take
that's the European Economic Area Light.
That's right. The Norway agreement, and Iceland has it too, the EA agreement. But you take out freedom of movement, and you leave the single market, and you get out to the ECJ, the European Court of Justice. Now, if you do all of that, I think you tick a lot of boxes. But I'm actually more attracted.
Apparently, it would be easier to build a settlement on Mars, though, than to get what you've just described.
No, it's all negotiable. I mean, look, let's not, you know, this is the point. We keep thinking, what is the EU going to give us? Well, what do they want from us? They want access to their largest customer. The other EU 27 nations want access to the single market of Britain. We're the 5th largest economy in the world, have the largest financial centre. They want access to that. So what are our terms for the EU? You know, we buy a lot of German cars, a lot of French wine. You know, they do not want 60% tariffs.
Can I counter this red, white, and blue flag waving exit? Don't talk Britain
What's
down.
Wrong with the red, white?
Yeah, well, let me just explain, because it's being spoken by a Tory The Tory government has just sold...
You say that like it's an insult.
Yeah, you've just sold the French and the Chinese our nuclear future. British commuters who are paying 27% extra in their rail fares in England are subsidising nationalised railways in France and Germany, who are making a profit out of our price hikes. You are committing a fire sale of British institutions, the Royal Mail. So don't talk about dumbing Britain down or a red, white and blue exit. You'll sell to the cheapest bidder. And you're also backed by Rupert Murdoch, a tax exile.
Get real. Rupert Murdoch in his wealth.
Foreign investment coming into Britain. It's very good for us. You know, there are $5 trillion of US investment. Britain is the largest investor.
Clamp down on the tax evasion,
for example, as well. We're a big player, and let's not talk ourselves down. You know, we're in a good position. A great deal for Britain. That's going to be great for Northern Ireland too.
It's a bit utopian, though. Your ambitions, isn't it? A bit utopian, David?
No, it's pragmatic.
Because at the end of the day, the deal that is decided will be agreed by the other 27 nations. Britain doesn't have a veto.
Yeah.
They all have vetoes. Yeah. Britain will get whatever those 27 nations decide Britain gets.
Well,
that's how it works legally, isn't it?
Under Article 50, you have a 2-year window to do a deal, and under that 2-year window, you have what is called qualified majority voting, which means you get a basic majority, or it's a qualified, so not every country would have to vote for that deal under those rules, and they are complex, but essentially it's not a majority. 50, you have a 2-year window to do a deal, and under that 2-year window, you have what is called qualified majority voting, which means you get a basic majority, or it's a qualified, so not every country would have to vote for that deal under those rules, and they are complex, but essentially it's not a majority vote. You won't have a position like with the Canadian deal where the Belgian Parliament of Wallonia was able to block it. You won't have that within that 2-year window, so we're in a better position under Article 50 as well. So, I mean, I'm pretty optimistic. But the point is, what really drives this is we are their biggest customer. They want to have access to our market. There are a lot of very worried Germans, I know, for example, that want to continue to sell BMWs.
Indeed, but they'll still have that access to the British market if Britain ends up doing a World Trade Organisation tariff arrangement.
Oh, but 10% tariffs.
It's not a pleasant thought.
Listen, the net loser in this is the British public.
And the consumer who will be carrying the 10% extra cost.
Exactly, the ordinary citizen. And what the worry is that you've got a Python-esque group of Tories, each disagreeing with what the other thinks. And I'm a member of DiEM25, which is calling for greater democracy, greater scrutiny and transparency throughout Europe. Yanis Varoufakis made the good point that the EU is like the Hotel California.
He's that communist chap, isn't he?
He's an erratic Marxist.
Yeah.
You know, the EU's like the Hotel California. You can check in any time you like, but you can never leave. Be honest with the British people. The complexity of Brexit is too much for a shambolic, chaotic Tory government. It's time to renew the mandate. It's time to open it up.
We've got 2 or 3 minutes left. Can I ask you both about what Nigel Farage has said, incidentally, since someone raised his name, invoked the Farage into the conversation again. Speaking in RTE's Today with Sean O'Rourke, he said it is time that, and he believes that public opinion in Ireland is suggesting it's time that Ireland move for what he's describing as an ear-exit to match the British Brexit. Of course, Nigel Farage has a long-standing belief that the whole of the European Union is doomed. Do you share that belief, David, that it's all doomed, it's all going to fall to pieces?
I think it has some serious challenges. It's not our job to bring the EU down. It's our job to look after Britain, put Britain first. But, you know, you've got the Dutch vote.
Whereas Nigel Farage actually does want to bring the EU down, and he's on record as saying that.
Well, I think he's right, actually, to challenge the undemocratic, unaccountable nature of the EU. But, you know, other countries are doing that. As I say, you know, that the French vote could be critical. Any one of these votes could do serious damage to the EU this year, even the German vote in September. Yeah. There's a whole series of votes this year and elections this year. I think the EU's in for a bumpy ride. We're not out of the woods on the euro. There's big problems with Italian banks. So I think the whole EU project is so now divorced from the public and the people that it's in deep, deep trouble.
If you thought 2016 was a difficult year, welcome to 2017.
Well, there's a point of convergence. I think if there's anyone to blame for the disintegration of the EU, it lies at the unaccountable, undemocratic heart of the EU, who have been the architects of their own demise. Their treatment of Greece, their fiscal policies throughout Europe have led to that disintegration. And what it will do, that disintegration will open up the ground for the most odious, populist, right-wing narratives that are...
Do you regard that disintegration as actually historically inevitable?
I don't think it's historically inevitable, but I think it requires really fresh thinking and cross-party thinking to say, is there a vision of Europe that can be saved? If it can't be, then we're entering a very dark period.
And that would be capitalism, wouldn't it? Oh, don't sneer at me. Don't sneer at me in the studio. It's very unbecoming. Phil Kelly from the Northern Ireland Labour Party. We love having him on in the studio.